Hello, everyone. Welcome to this bonus good shit, you sexy beast up there above me. That's my favorite chili Viking up there, you can see. And we've just been filming together, actually. We've just been consuming tincture, singing Scandinavian drinking songs. Yeah, fucking hot, man. But we're not here for tincture right now. I'll tell you what we're here for today. We're actually here to talk a little bit about drugs is what we're here for. I'm not on any drugs right now, apart from endorphins from the chili I just ate. Okay, I have consumed a small quantity of alcohol, and actually I've got several drugs near me. I've also got these ones here. These fucking drugs, this is the worst drug for me. I cannot put it down. And all the other drugs, I picked them up, I put them down. It was no problem. Now I'm a grown up, a little bit of a grown up. I have some willpower. And those younger, I didn't have so much willpower. I was always a psychedelics guy. It was actually for me, it worked like this. I accidentally took a massive dose of psychedelic mushrooms when I was 3 years old by accident. Yeah, every parent's nightmare, you know. The kids playing we were actually in the play school or kindergarten, as the Germans would say, and yep, and the teachers didn't have their eyes open, they didn't know what was there, and then hey presto, we had a whole kindergarten full of highly dosed 3-year-olds. But the result for me was really good. Actually, it caused I had MRIs and so on done on my head throughout my growing up years. And the result was actually good for me. It caused me to have synaptic development, which gave me a photographic memory. So I never needed to study for exams after that. I could just look and then know. But then I got really into the drugs thing when I was 11, because I had a sense memory at aged 11 of tripping, you know. I knew what it was. And it was just before ecstasy came and swept across England. It was maybe 2 years before ecstasy washed over England like a gigantic wave. And yeah, I had this kind of sense memory of what was tripping. I'd heard about it. And so we got our hands on some LSD, my friend and we dropped acid when we were 11. That was the first time, and I loved it. And it was adorable. It was a fantastic experience. And then it kind of spiraled from there. I was smoking weed by the time I was 12. And then ecstasy came. And when ecstasy came, then it was parties, you know? And I was also working in the theatrical arts at the time. So I had a lot of freedom and access to everything. And so then there's speed and cocaine and heroin and ecstasy and MDMA and ketamine and gamma hydroxybutyrate, and just basically I aged about 14, I got myself a book called the Psychopharmacopoeia Psychedelica, which was like a alphabetical thick book of all drugs, obscure and not obscure. And I literally went from the beginning to the end of that shit. Got my hands on all of it, tried all of it, you know. By the time I got to my late teenage years, I was tripping on something psychedelic basically almost every day. Basically. I mean, I was dropping acid minimum 5-6 times a week, minimum, you know. Ecstasy for parties, and because I worked in the theater, parties meant, yeah, you know, like 5 days in a week as well, and speed to stay awake, Valium to go to sleep. Yeah, it got messy. And then I got to a point where in my late teens, early 20s, I was in Rotterdam, also Amsterdam, eating hallucinogenic mushrooms. And I asked myself, hang on, am I eating these mushrooms to get high or to stay high? And then I realized I didn't know if I was high or not. I didn't know if I was tripping. And I couldn't tell the difference between being high and not being high, tripping and not tripping. And for those of you who tripped out there, you'll know it's a pretty major difference to being normal, being under psychedelics. And so when I realized that, I thought, fuck it, man, that's not a good sign at all. You know, like I'm barely 20 and I don't know the difference between if I'm high or not high. I asked myself the question, when was the last time I was not high? And I could honestly not answer the question, you know? And yeah, I was a drugs dustbin and I knew it. And it was awful because I would see people coming up on too much ecstasy, sweating and freaking out. And it gave me the fear, it gave me a panic because I knew there was no way for me not to be that guy. You know, like when I saw the guy coming up on too much, he took 5 instead of taking 1, and it was too much, you know. It gave me a panic because every time I saw it, which was almost every day or two, because I knew if I had those 5 tablets in front of me, I would have taken all 5 of them and gone looking for more, you know, fucking buying ecstasy in a McDonald's queue at 7:30 in the morning after you've been clubbing, when your friends have gone home, buying ecstasy from the guy in front of me, taking it before I bought me a breakfast so I could go home and go to sleep, you know. Yeah, it got messy. That was when it got messy. And then my life was saved by conservative places. I moved to Bavaria by accident. I was high and being stupid in Amsterdam, woke up in Bavaria. And here, for those of you who don't know it, it's the most conservative part of Germany. And it's definitely, I mean, yeah, it's a lot of drugs here, but it's not a drugs culture in the same way as my town. I come from, Brighton or London, where I lived. And I didn't know anyone, so I couldn't buy drugs, you know? And so I was just dry, not because I wanted to not take drugs. Oh, fuck, I wanted to take drugs so much, but there just wasn't any opportunity. And then after like 7 years or something like that, I was somewhere and then there was some access to some kind of drugs. I forget what it was now. And I looked and I thought to myself, sure, oh, I could take that. And I thought, actually, don't fancy that today, but maybe next week or something. And that for me was a revolution because I was like, wow, I can choose not to be on drugs. It's not like it's out of my control. I can choose that now. And that's when I realized that I had grown up and I was happy with myself, to be honest. Yeah, that's my drug history. What about you, young Chilli Viking?
Yeah, thank you. I didn't want to interrupt you. I think it's somewhat sacred when someone talks about their drug past experience history. I don't even want to cough. You know, I don't want to interrupt because I don't want you to lose the thread. So yeah, my life's been crazy, definitely crazy. My life. My drug experience went from extraordinary, amazing, downhill in like, I don't know. I think I had like 1 year of total fucking rock and roll and doing whatever I wanted. No one could tell me nothing. I just took every drug I could find. But, you know, I come from a broken home, so to say. My father left us. He drank himself to death a couple of years ago. So drugs for me was a escape route. When my first drug was speed, actually. I was 12 years old. I was with an older friend, and his family were all drug users, definitely addicts, every single one of them. And he had like, I don't know the correct term, but let's say a trap house, you know? He was living in a trap house, so he got access to everything. So he was 13 years old, 14 maybe, I was 12, and he got a gram of amphetamines, and we took it. And
how did you take it? How did you take it?
Took it in some toilet paper and made a bomb.
Yeah. You know? Bombed it. Yeah, bombed
then
it.
We just sat on a bench. This was his first time too. And we just waited. And wow, when that shit hit, I was in another realm, you know? My mind just And I came down like 2 days after that, feeling shit.
Yeah.
So, but I had my first year with all that. I was the youngest one in the gang, so to say. So I had to take everybody's shit, in that constellation.
Yeah.
Working class neighborhood, kind of a rough neighborhood actually. And in Sweden we have lots of amphetamines, hashish, GHB, if you know what that is.
Gamma hydroxybutyrate. Yes, used to cook that when I was a kid, and it was legal to do as well, which is astonishing.
Kind of a strong drug.
Yeah, I was amazed when I found out it was a date rape drug. I was like, shit, bitch, I've been trying to date rape myself like night after night for fucking years.
Yeah, so it all escalated very quickly for me. I was caught by the social services and locked up when I was 15, I think. And I was moved around.
The police busted you and then gave you to the social services for drug possession, or?
Yeah, for drug use, harmful behavior to myself. So they locked me up actually in
prison.
I don't know if you have that in Germany. I think you do. Minor detention centers, treatment centers.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, have you seen the kids from Bahnhof Zoo? Have you read the book?
Yeah. It's a good film too.
Where she ends up in the sort of like that establishment. So I was transported around like 10 different places, and I got out when I was 18. It kicked off right out the bat. I had been taking as many drugs as I could. I ran away on like weekends and stuff. So, but I started shooting, needles.
Oh, really? Fuck,
yeah,
man. Now that's bad news.
That's fucking bad.
Were you shooting up speed?
Yeah, speed.
Dude, your fucking heart must have been. Oh my God! I hate
my
to
life.
think about it.
My life went to shit very quickly, and I was homeless by the time I was 24, and I was living on the streets. Full-time thief, full-time junkie, full-time trying to kill myself slowly, So, but let's not focus on the negativity. I have been clean.
Doesn't sound like you had a lot of fun whilst you were doing that. Let's not focus on the negativity. Homeless, shooting up. I can't see the laughs and the shits and the giggles in that one.
Yeah, but if you haven't been awake for 6-7 days, and suddenly the air feels kind of smooth and warm, and the sun comes up over the mountains, you have just shooten up, everything is just nice and dandy. If you haven't experienced that, then I don't know what to tell you.
It reminds me of there was an interview, a famous interview with Keith Richards back in the day, in the mid 1970s, with, I forget what I guess it was probably Rolling Stone. And they asked him, Keith, is it true? We've just been told by somebody that earlier this month you stayed awake for 9 days. And Keith was like, yeah, man, that's right. And they were like, why? And Keith said, well, shit, everything was just so fucking interesting, man. Didn't want to go to sleep, you know? So you was a speed thing, yeah? You're a speed guy, huh?
Yeah, I'm a speed guy. Or at least I was.
Were a speed guy, yeah. So over there, are we talking amphetamine or are we talking crystal methamphetamine over there in Sweden?
I think we're talking amphetamines, the Polish, the squishy stuff from Poland. Yeah. And we also got sometimes we got the crystals, and we got something called what was it? It's like I don't know the English term for it, but I think in some way of the manufacturing they added some like startup gas,
Okay.
So when you just open the bag, it was like chemical burn in your face, like very potent stuff, very potent stuff. So,
I remember that. I remember that with speed. I remember smelling a bag of speed years ago and thinking to myself, that's good. And then thinking, what does that remind me of? And then I realized it reminds me of the smell of a really dirty public toilet at the end of a long night. And I thought, it really can't be good, but I can classify something as good quality if it smells like a really dirty public toilet. Do you know what I mean? We had powder speed, like, powdery type crystally speed. We had there was no crystal meth in my teenage years. There probably was, but certainly wasn't accessible to me. And there was one thing I remember, which we used to get, which was really big when I was about 13, and it was called pink champagne, right? And it was like a wet form of speed, and it was a psychedelic pink color, and it was wet and stringy, And I remember you used to do lines of this stuff, but it was strings, and so it would just be hanging out your fucking nose, these pink strings, and you had to stuff it up your nose like that,
I remember that. That's beautiful.
Pink champagne.
I think it was manufactured in Poland, actually, or the Netherlands, somewhere around that area.
Man. Wouldn't be. I remember our dealer, who we used to buy from. I remember a really scary incident at his house. I must have been mid-teenage years, and there was a guy who had a girlfriend, and he was an adult, but not really an adult. He was probably in his early 20s, I guess. And she had a couple of kids, little kids, one girl who was about, I don't know, let's say 7 or something, and a little boy, really small, in his nappy, like tiny little kid, barely walking. And I remember going to their house to buy speed, and they were cutting speed at the time. They had these paper plates with like speed, powdered white speed, and something to cut it with, like baking powder or something like that. And they were mixing it together. And I was sat there getting high and just watching. And I remember we heard a noise and we looked, and coming from the other room was the baby in the nappy. And the baby boy in the nappy was holding an empty paper plate, which had powder on it, and his entire face was full of white powder, this baby. The baby couldn't have been older than 2 or 3 years old, probably 2, I guess.
Fuck, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah. That was a big fucking panic. But then I didn't learn any lessons. I thought it was funny. And that's how intelligent I was at that point in time. If I was to see something like that now, I'm a parent, I have a daughter. You're a parent, you have a whole bunch of daughters. If I was to see something like that now, I'd fucking die of a heart attack. At the time, I just thought it was funny. Terrible, really, isn't it? So what happened?
That's terrible.
So what happened with you then? So you're on the streets, and then you get thrown into a detention center, and then you come out, and then you hit the speed again, and you're back on the needle. So then what happens?
Yeah, what happened was I just floated around in Gothenburg, Stockholm. I've seen so much tragedy. I was just trying to stay high. I couldn't face myself. I couldn't face the world, So they accepted me. The street crew, or the street addicts, the lowest of the low. They accepted me into their little family. And funny thing is, I never felt so much at home as I did with that crew, to be honest with you, because they came from nothing, they had nothing, and they shared it with me, So as I was saying, I've met so much tragedy and the bad sides of life at an early age, that it took all the fun away from me. I began to see the world as shit. This world is shit. There's nothing here for me. I can't accomplish anything. I was dealt a very bad hand. So early on, I became an addict, full-blown addict, whatever drug there was, heroin, cocaine, pills, alcohol. I was a major alcoholic at age 20. I drank like 10 big cans of beer, like every day. Didn't matter, every day. I can even drink more, but I was on speed, hashish every day, you know, trying to maintain that lifestyle. You see these teeth? They're porcelain. I just bought them 2 years ago. I had almost every teeth in my mouth fall out.
Okay.
You know? And I had my first daughter when I was 21. You know, she's 16 and a half today. So
you were still high at that point. You were still high at that point. 21, you were still high, yeah?
I was a fucking mess. I couldn't even, you know, I couldn't even tie my own shoes, you know? I was so fucked up. And she was born, and what did I do? I couldn't be there to hang around and support. I had to go out and, you know, fuck everything up, trying to forget everything about me, everything about, you know, broken promises. I would never do as my father did to me, and blah, 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 blah. So I got clean when I was 27. I went to a 12-step recovery facility in the northern part of Sweden, where everyone who worked there had been an addict, or, you know, was like, so there was no escaping, you know? I couldn't fool anyone. They put me in a fucking chair, and they just looked at me, and I couldn't get away. So that was the first time in my life I had to fucking meet all the things that I have tried to run away from, you know? I don't think I ever talked feelings with anyone before the age of 27. Not a single feeling.
Aren't those 12-step places, the thing that scares me about 12-step, I've got a few friends of mine who went into 12-step, yeah? And it didn't happen to all of them, but some of them came out very, very God-focused. And that made me a bit nervous. Isn't that part of 12-step, that you're supposed to surrender you to a higher power, God, and like to praying and religious stuff and all of that stuff? Isn't that part of it?
That's definitely part of it. But it's not a cult, as everyone thinks it is. It's not a religion. You can go in with any religion you want, or you can be an atheist. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What it means is that you surrender your will, or at least in that sense, how much of your will you actually can surrender. You know, it's the trying part that it's the important thing, that you invite a higher power into your life to share decisions with. And this is, I don't know. I don't have a God. I don't talk to Jesus or Buddha or Allah, or, you know, I'm not a religious guy.
Would be older for you guys, wouldn't it? I'd say so.
Yeah,
talking about God, Scandinavian.
I've tried to seek that connection, but, you know, I can't find it. I have so much interest in myself, you know. I don't have any place for a God in my life. But to that point that, you know, from being a fully fledged addict, going on needles 24/7, and to, in just 3 months of healing, I was a different person. You know, I'm still a bad boy. I'm still, you know, I fuck shit up, but I don't use drugs. I can live my life. I have 2 more beautiful daughters that I share my life with, and my beautiful wife. And for the first time in my life, I have everything that I ever wanted to have, you know? Confidence. I have a life. I have money. I have some place to live. I have my driver's license, my kids. I have trust fully restored in me. But, you know, I didn't become a religious fanatic.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not advocating 12 steps, really.
But then, I know some people who've definitely had their life saved by the 12-step program. And for sure, I mean, if you look at the more famous people who've come through it, let's say Steve-O is a good example from that, the Jackass guy. I mean, he's certainly not a Bible-banging God guy at all. But the 12-step did save his fucking life, you know? So definitely isn't it? But you know what I'm interested in? I wonder, what caused your problem? Was it your life or was it your drugs? What came first? The problem was the life, I think, wasn't it?
I guess that's the. I guess you can say that the life I was dealt was kind of like the engine, you know, and the petrol was when I first found the drugs, it got the engine started. I think because my mother is an addict, my father was an addict, my baby brother is an addict, all of my friends and all of their parents were addicts, you know. So where I grew up, the crew that I ran with, we were all fucking, you know, like hanging out in the streets, doing crazy shit. And then we found the drugs, and man, I think I'm the only one alive. Or I know two of my old homies are in like psychiatric wards, all fucked up, couple on the street, but most of them are dead.
You know? I just lost one. Terrible. I just lost one a couple of weeks ago, actually, strangely enough. It was a guy who I was running with when I was younger, and Timmy was his name. And he had a really horrible life, the poor guy. His parents were a waste of space, and his school didn't work very well for him. And he got kidnapped when he was younger as well. When we were in our early teenagers, he got kidnapped by one of the bigger boys, and they did absolutely awful things to him as well. And so didn't have a good chance, did Timmy. And we used to run around getting high. And I saw him in the newspaper a little while ago, maybe about half a year ago, because he's a junkie now. He looks about 10 times my age. He was a junkie then. And he had been arrested by the police for murder because he'd taken a junkie lady into the public toilets on the seafront. Where I live is by the beach, and there's public toilet there. Took her into the public toilets, gave her a hot shot of heroin and killed her, and then robbed her and left her there dead. And so they arrested him, put him on trial. He got charged with murder, put in prison, and about, I think 2-3 weeks ago, I just heard from somebody, overdosed in prison. That's terrible. The end of him. That's the end of him, man. And that's the fucking way. But I mean, the thing is for me is that I hate problems not being dealt with completely. That's what I don't like. Yeah. And see, I know from my own life, I know a number of people, including me, who got into very dangerous situations with drugs, you know? And I also have a feeling you shouldn't have to get high. Whether or not you've got drugs shouldn't make you happy or unhappy or neutral or anything, yeah? But the thing that bites my ass is that there's so much wrong with our social system, yeah?
Yeah.
That creates situations where, like Timmy, for example, I just told you the story of, ends up shooting up a woman to death in a public toilet. There is obviously a social problem. And this social problem, I get kind of pissed when people shout and bail about drugs all the time. And try and make them legal, make them illegal, make them controlled, make them uncontrolled, whatever the fuck. But then don't do anything to fundamentally change the social system that people are inside of, you know? Which to me, I think it's a little bit like dealing with a symptom rather than a cause. You understand?
Yeah, definitely.
But
definitely.
I have to say, my dear Chilli Viking, I'm super happy that you got your shit in order. And Those of you out there in television land, if you want to see, go have a look on my Chilli Viking friends links here. Look at his beautiful daughters. Look at his wonderful life. Particularly, just look at his relationship with his family. Look how beautiful that shit is, yeah? You can go to the bottom of hell and you can bounce out of it, and then you can have a life like this boy up here. You know, it's not all lost. Doesn't make any difference how dark it gets. Talking of dark, I think it's all right, my brother. You're an inspiration, my Chilli Viking friend. Well, I think from myself and Chilli Viking over here, we're going to say ciao for now. Yeah. And you all out there, be safe, be sensible. If you're going to get high in a sensible way. There's no need for you to get high if you don't want to get high. Just try, be smart. Okay.
Yeah.